Okay,
Kathy, can you hear me?
yes. You are recording.
All right, so we'll call the meeting of the sign. Oh,
How's that?
we can hear you, Paul.
Good.
So we'll call the meeting of the Sign Advisory Committee to order 9 a.m. on November 3rd, 2020. Let me begin by reading the script. As a preliminary matter, this is Chris Young, Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Kuster.
Here.
Paul Wolf. Paul, I think you're on.
Paul? Maybe his volume's down. He's not muted.
Okay.
Kathy, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and that's it for current members, correct?
Yes.
All right, then staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kathy Flint.
Present.
And anticipated speakers, they're in the waiting room, or are they online?
They're on. It's
Okay.
Isaiah Truman and
Okay, so
Manny.
Isaiah Truman.
Manny, I forget Manny's last name. Manny Cash.
Okay, so Isaiah, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and Manny?
Manny is on his iPhone.
Okay. Well, we can return to that. So, good morning. The open meeting of the SAC is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the SAC is going to be a video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, please permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, I will afford public comment excuse me, to members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Mark Catone has entered the meeting.
All right. Mark, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Great. So, first item is the adoption of our minutes from the previous meetings. Would anybody like to motion on that?
Motion to approve?
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Paul, are you in favor?
Looks like we
All right.
lost Paul.
All right. We still have a quorum. Let's go to Kevin.
Yes.
Kevin
Yes.
and Mark
Yes.
All right, thank you. The minutes have approved. I actually skipped over the adoption of the agenda, so let me
Yes.
make sure we can adopt our agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
All right. Kevin, do you second?
Second.
And are you in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
All right. So, great. Let's move on to our first applicant, which is 117 Orange Street. And we have Isaiah Truman on the line. So Isaiah, would you like to walk us through your application?
Struggling with the Zoom there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I had moved into the building right as COVID started, and I had called, I think I spoke with you, Mark, briefly, unofficially, about the need to put a sign up so that we could survive. And at the time, I got as much detail as I could on the requirements and did everything I could to conform to the requirements for signage, including making the sign out of wood and having a beveled edge and being hand carved and conforming to the size, actually being smaller than the pre-existing size sign that was hung there. And so I apologize that this didn't go through the formal process. And so now here I am trying to get it straight.
Okay, so you're applying for two signs, it looks like. One on the street side is the projecting sign, and then there's a wall sign on the parking lot side, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So Kathy, do we have two separate applications or is there just one?
No, this, can you see it okay on the screen?
Yes, I see that as like a right up.
Yeah, it's a master sign plan. That was the request.
Okay.
And just so you know, Paul is back on the meeting with us.
Okay, great. Let's go down the board members and get any input. Paul, if you can you hear us and you want to weigh in on this application?
Paul, you might want to maybe increase your volume on your device, maybe.
All right,
Yeah, it looks like you might be
Let's give-
frozen.
let's skip over to Kevin.
As I recall from last meeting, there were a couple of comments. I think one being that the size of the logo is larger than I think what the guidelines allow for, and the logo is rather contemporary, and I don't think can fit underneath the guidelines at that size. That I think was the primary issue. The other one is that there appears to have been a number of other signs that went up, some freestanding easels and a flag sign. And so I think that was what prompted the call for the master sign plan. So my only issue is with the size of the logo on that sign.
The flag is gone, and so is the sandwich board.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think, well, it's Mark, do you have a
Comments?
And-
Can I see can we see, is there, I guess I want to see the front sign. There we go.
That one right there.
Yeah. I don't know that I have as much issue with it. Trying to think of other signage and, it definitely, the logo definitely has some contemporary detailing to it. I think the fact that everything's so dark for the most part, I don't find it stands out that much. I have no concerns with the rear signage, wall sign. And agree, obviously, with the master sign plan that the flag sign would be down. I don't know that I'm as concerned with this sign as much as Kevin is. It's right on the it's right on the fence for me. But I think the fact it's manufactured in a according to our guidelines, I'm less concerned about the graphics. Those are incised, is that correct? Not painted, right? They're carved letters.
Correct. That's correct.
Like that kind of helps traditionalize it slightly. So I don't know that I'm as concerned with this. It graphically is smaller compared when I look over at Cumbies, which is so much larger. That stands out far more than this, even though that's a more traditional font type. So I guess I'm okay with it as I talk through it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks, Mark. Yeah, I'm sort of split. I understand Kevin's point. I think it really kind of comes down to the difference between the font area and the logo area. And I know we've had that conversation in the past. So given that the fact that the font is less than 15% of the sign, and the graphic is what sort of takes up the rest of the space. I'm also, I could see the sign being appropriate. I would want, if Paul is able to speak, it would be good to get his opinion, I think. Which might be a decision.
I don't know if he can hear us.
Okay.
Could he give us a thumbs up, thumbs down?
He's on the phone right now.
Oh,
Looks like he's writing something down.
Maybe he had to take a call. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, he's
Got
talking
it.
to somebody, but not us.
Got it. Well, I think then if we were to work with the three of us, can we get a motion of some sort?
I would motion to approve as submitted, the master sign plan is submitted with the flag no longer in use as indicated by the applicant, though it shows up in the photos. So we're approving, I think, in the master sign plan, a projecting sign and a wall sign at the rear of the building.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe Paul's trying to call in on his.
I'm
Oh, there he
I'm
is.
in,
Okay.
on the phone. I can't receive anything on the computer.
Okay. So Paul, can you hear us and understand the comments so far?
No, this is
Okay.
the first thing I've heard.
All right. So Isaiah introduced the application for the Isaiah Athletic Club. It's a projecting sign on the front of the building and a wall sign on the
I
back.
saw it.
Yeah. Do you have any comments on we did acknowledge the flag sign and freestanding sandwich board are taken down. So it's just these two signs.
I have no problem.
Okay. So there's a motion, Paul, that needs to be seconded for approving these two.
Second,
Okay. Is there any discussion that wants to take place? Kevin, you want to speak on the motion?
No,
Okay. So if we take a vote, Paul
yes.
and Mark
Yes.
and Kevin.
I,
Okay. And aye. So it's approved. Thank you, Isaiah, for bringing this in and for keeping the other signage as cleaned up as you're saying it is. So appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. And for the record, the flag pole was removed. So
Okay. And the sandwich board is probably the one that's catching a lot of people's attention recently. So that one to not return would be good.
no problem.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right.
So, Mr.
that-
Chair, there are
yes.
some people, I believe, representing Vineyard Vines. It's Manny Castillo, and I believe he was going to have a couple of his co-workers join him. I don't know their names, so just for the record.
Okay. Manny, are you on the line?
They're just
If you would like to speak, feel free.
Joining us will be Jeff Weissman. He's one of our signage vendors. He usually takes care of the Nantucket.
Manny,
For
could
the
you
season.
spell his last name for me, please? For the record.
Sman.
Okay, thank you.
We can not put up this blue vinyl on the windows for when we go out of season on November 30th. And we want to make it allow.
We're not hearing Manny.
I know. Manny, we
Try
can
to,
barely hear you.
hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So, yes, like I was saying, we closed on November 30th. Last year, we posted up these blue window decals, plain, with no wording on them. We thought that was fine. We got a notice saying that we cannot put those up again this year. So we want to see what is allowed to put up or what you guys recommend us to do so we can be in compliance with the committee.
Okay. Do any members want to speak?
Well, one, I want to really thank Vineyard Vines for even coming in to have this conversation with us and responding to our concerns from last season. I think maybe it's not necessary, but I think the concern is that the bluing out of the window pane really kind of impacts the visual of this very visible corner, and ideally these windows are addressed in a more traditional fashion. Now, I think I can speak for the board that we don't have a set of strong guidelines as relative to how these should be treated. HDC almost would actually step in terms of the proper appropriate treatment of the interior, the glazing, but there are some great examples, I guess, downtown where vendors have gotten creative with a sort of an off-season display, and they've draped the backside of the windows, but maybe have some either merchandise or mannequins. Or Pollock's is a great example of what they'll do in the off season. And I'm trying to think of a few others where clearly they're closed for the season, but the windows still remain somewhat active or animated or visually pleasing, especially where this is such a strong pedestrian way as well. We're just looking to you to get a little bit more creative. My understanding is this is a very laborious process to put the coatings in each pane. And so some way of maybe if you want to mask off the interiors, you're not looking into the space, but draped in a more creative way such that there's something happening in those windows other than just a blanking out of the window pane. And that's really more probably coming me as an SAC member than speaking for the board as a whole. So I think it's maybe worth for a few other members to weigh in on that as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Kevin, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Marcus said. I think it's really trying to show a little more, I guess, streetscape friendliness in the wintertime and the off season for those of us that are still here. The thing that we don't want to see in these windows are more signs or, logos from other merchandise. I think something that's just a little more simple, or what I've seen some people do is to have nonprofits put some things in their windows. But as Mark said, a way to animate the street a little more. Thank you.
Understood.
Thanks, Kevin. And Manny, one thing that we've also been working with a lot of the applicants on. A lot of people are looking to put, television screens or lighting and creative marketing devices in their windows, and that's something to be aware of. They're not allowed. So just, when we're talking about animating your window, don't
Of course not.
go down the route of putting a 80-inch TV screen in there as well. But the, I think Pollock's always stands out as one that we thought was really creative because they took historic photos of Nantucket, maybe from the NHA, or I'm not sure where they got them, but and kind of printed these black and white photographs and then in large scale and put them in their windows, and sort of, it was a creative way to pay homage to Nantucket's history. It kept the streetscape interesting and not glaring the way that the blue window panes were glaring last year. So that's really what we're trying to avoid is sort of creating an odd streetscape. And as Mark pointed out, whether you make window displays that have a curtain behind them so that you don't see beyond, the first foot or two, or, you guys are so creative. I'm sure something will be done that can really enhance the streetscape. So that's what we're after.
No problem. So do we have to submit this into you guys before we put it up?
No, window displays, as long as they're not signage according to the guidelines, you have a lot of latitude, and signage is logos, graphics that text of some kind. So you really you have a lot of flexibility, I think, but it doesn't have to be applied for if it's just a window display.
Got it.
I'll let that's Mark or Kevin. Do you guys want to speak to that at all? Any other points you want to?
Yeah, I think something that helps to show that the store is involved and active in the community, and this just looks like it's closed.
Okay.
So I think it goes well towards enhancing the brand year round.
Right. Oh, Paul, are you on?
Yeah, Chris, if they would like to show us what they want to do, we'd be happy to look at it, but they don't have to.
Okay.
Right.
Well, is something maybe like a frosted film and then with a display behind that viable?
If I may,
Yeah,
I think as long as you could still see through it, what we're trying to create is some depth, so you still visually see, like you're looking into the space, even as I think Chris said, it's only a foot or so display. I think Lemon Press is a good example. Actually, they will close for the winter, but they've done sort of a winter scene on their windows that's sort of playful, where they're, classic sort of old Christmassy, wintry snow effect on the window and that sort of thing. I think if you did a display behind it, I think as long as you could sort of see it. And I don't know I want to say your lights still come on at night, because when you drive by, you can see the cracks around that blue film. I think it's on a timer. So, which is not a bad thing. That means there's actually some life in, we'd rather see that than a storefront go dark for 3, 4, 5 months. So if you do some sort of display and there is a little bit of light that's filtering through that display, that's encouraged as well. Just so it looks, again, a little bit more animated for the streetscape.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Manny.
No problem. Thank you guys for taking the time to speak with me.
Great. Kathy, the only other item on the agenda is enforcement. That's been anything new on that front?
No, haven't gotten anything recently. Although Paul did ask, you sent me a picture, but I don't know where that picture was taken. I believe it was probably more in the lines of freedom of speech, but I don't know where those freestanding signs were on whose property. So I apologize for not getting back to you, Paul. I think see if we can unmute him here.
Kathy?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a sign that is on the corner by the high school. And it refers you to some signs further down on Surfside Road, which are on the corner of South Shore Road. What they say is affordable housing, question mark, not affordable, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
I don't know what the message is. I tried to follow the arrows in the sign and it took me nowhere. It may be a comment on the Surfside Crossing development, but I just think it's a good example of things being out of control.
Yeah.
And it's on public property.
Yeah.
It's on the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah, I think that that's probably the most important thing for me is that we talk to the town and say, you know, to what extent are we going to have political signage or social signage posted on town property? If people want to put messages on their personal property, I don't know, that gets into the whole constitutional rights, and I'm not sure where we want to tread on that, but the town.
Mr. Chair, oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I will try to find the email from Erica regarding freedom of speech on town property. I believe there was a case law.
Oh.
So I don't know if we can really do much about it at the moment, but I will see what I can find and forward it to you all.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Oh, boy. Thank you.
Assuming we'll find a second.
Second.
Paul?
Okay,
Everybody-
vote yes.
All right, Paul, Mark, Kevin?
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Kathy. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.